Their cases are floating around like the Flying Dutchman without a port of call. And the answer to that we sort of know with regard to special counsel Jack Smith. He became a lame duck prosecutor at about 2:30 a.m. last Wednesday.
And that is George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley with me on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business this week on what will become of the criminal cases brought forth by Biden's DOJ and Democrat state prosecutors against President-elect Donald Trump. Special prosecutor Jack Smith now indicating he will most likely drop both the January 6th and the classified documents cases against Trump. And then on Friday, Congressman Jim Jordan and Barry Loudermilk sent a letter to Smith demanding that he preserve all existing and future records related to his investigations and prosecutions of Trump. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Florida Congressman Cory Mills and House Oversight Member Congresswoman Paulina Luna, both honored veterans on this Sunday ahead of Veterans Day. First, I want to thank you both for your incredible service to our great nation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paulina, let me kick things off with you. Get your reaction to these cases suddenly becoming unimportant.
You know, we knew from the get-go that Jack Smith was operating under the purview of the White House and at the direction of President Biden to go after his political opponent. But what I will tell you, Maria, is that Jack Smith violated the Constitution. There was never congressional oversight on anything that he was doing. And I'm really happy that Jim Jordan and House Judiciary is telling him to preserve evidence, because even after President Trump is elected, we need to ensure that this never happens to any other candidate for president ever again. And so we have to follow through, see who exactly ordered that, and if it means that we need to bring criminal prosecution, I think that we need to.
Cory Mills, your reaction?
Well, absolutely. But I also look at the fact that this shows the Department of Injustice, and this shows the actual corruption and cooperation that was going on in the White House. Look at what was happening in Georgia with Fani Willis, where we've now found out that Nathan Wade had multiple calls with the White House. Let's look at Judge Merchan and his daughter, who was actually a fundraiser and was actually trying to support Kamala Harris and Joe Biden when it came to raising funds on the back of President Trump being in the New York court system. So I think that what we're seeing right now is that the Department of Injustice and the lawfare that was going on is now coming to a screeching halt with President-elect Donald Trump coming back into office.
So how will people regain trust in the Department of Justice, Congresswoman Luna?
Well, you know, it all starts with who President Trump decides to appoint to oversee that. But I do have a good feeling that he's going to choose someone that will go through the DOJ and really weed out a lot of the weaponization. As you're seeing, Maria, it's not just the DOJ. It's also with FEMA. We know that this was a very politicized branch, and that simply can't stand, especially in a constitutional republic. So we look forward to hearing more about the appointments coming up here pretty soon. But remember, it is now a bright day in America, and so I think that we're all very excited that President Trump won.
So is that how you restore trust in our institutions, Congressman Cory? Criminal prosecution? Is that what's going to do it?
Well, I think that we can acknowledge that there's a crisis in leadership, and who they appoint and actually who starts at the top is very key. But I also think we need to be rescoping and reforming all these individual departments, bureaus, and agencies. I don't think they need to be the size that they are right now. I think we need to be reducing limited government of federal and putting it back into the individual states. And I think that that starts with, you know, President Trump coming back into the White House, Elon Musk looking at cutting the, you know, frivolous government spending, but also getting a control to return power back to the people.
Well, some of this will need the leadership in the Senate to actually have President Trump execute his plans. Congresswoman Luna, your thoughts on this Senate fight right now to get to the top?
You know, the fact that these senators declined to come onto your show and Rick Scott was the only one here making the case to the American people, I think just goes to show that these people are going to indeed continue Mitch McConnell's direction and leadership for the Senate, which is simply unacceptable. We need strong leadership that won't repeat 2016 and block President Trump's agenda. That's why I've publicly come out to endorse Senator Scott. But remember, the American people can make their voices heard. The senators answer to you. So phone your senator and let them know that you don't want the same Mitch McConnell leadership. We don't want the revenge of the Sith Lord here in the Senate. And I think that Rick Scott has a chance at winning this thing.
What do you think, Cory Mills?
Well, again, I've also endorsed Rick Scott for Senate Majority Leader. I think that anyone who Mitch McConnell endorses should tell you exactly who not to vote for. And so while I look at John Thune, while I look at Cornyn and all the others, I think that we have to acknowledge the fact that it's Rick Scott who was actually willing to go ahead and challenge McConnell in the last 118th Congress. And so we need strong leadership. We need someone who can deliver. Rick Scott's proven that as governor. He's proven that as senator, and he's going to stand up again. And I think that that's who we need in the Senate to actually lead, because we've had nothing but Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, the two Democrats at the top, running this, which is why we didn't get bills across the finish line. We need someone like Rick Scott to drive President Trump's agenda.
You know, you would think that at this point, it's pretty clear, obvious how the people feel. We the people. I mean, look at that map that we showed earlier and how red, how Republican people voted. There are some areas that are blue on the coast, and there are certainly the states that Kamala won. By the way, I should say many of those states have requirements of no ID to vote. Those are the states she won. So what do you make of this media meltdown, Congresswoman? I mean, you know, you've got the media almost in tears after Tuesday night's victory of President Trump. And you also had a handful of governors come out. Kathy Hochul, the governor of Illinois, Pritzker, and a couple of others, Tish James in the New York DA, AG rather, and say, we're going to fight. We're going to fight his agenda.
You know, this is the loud minority opinion in this country. These people are very isolated and very disconnected to what American people are going through right now. And I think you actually had some Democrat strategists actually vocalize this and saying that they need to really take an internal reflection on what happened within their own party. But, you know, Maria, when I saw some of these pundits, some of these white liberal pundits attacking Black Americans, attacking Hispanic Americans, accusing us of being racist and anti-woman, I mean, that's just the farthest thing from the truth. The fact is that they don't understand why they lost. They didn't understand why they lost because they've the entire time been disconnected from the American people. So I look forward to President Trump, and he's already mentioned it about unifying this country. But it is disheartening to see how much they've especially attacked not just Americans, but also minority Americans that just simply didn't want to go along with their radical agenda.
And you used the term criminal prosecution earlier. You do believe that that is the way to regain trust in our institutions and in these agencies like the FBI?
Yes, ma'am, because you have the American people that would be held to that same standard. So just because these people are political appointees, if they're operating outside of the purview of the Constitution, if they're violating people's rights, they need to be held accountable. So I am not for a two-tier justice system in this country. I believe that restoring our country, restoring trust in our justice system is going to mean that people will get in trouble. And that's exactly why I believe criminal prosecution would be necessary.
All right, we will leave it there. Again, thank you both for your incredible service to our great nation. Paulina Luna, Cory Mills. We will have you back very soon. Thank you so much to you both.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.